Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to my review of chapter 281 of Black Clover. In my opinion, the most disappointing chapter that we've had ever since we got out of the Heart Kingdom portion of the Spade Kingdom arc. And by that, I don't mean that the chapter overall was bad. I just mean that by the time I got done reading it, there were certain portions of the chapter that left me feeling a little disappointed when I walked away from it. In fact, for starters, the reason why I actually waited until Sunday to do this review is because I wanted to get the official translation and read that first, because I wanted to see exactly what Xenon will say to Yuno about the ancient demons from the Spade Kingdoms and their backstory. Because when the fan translation came out on Friday, the only thing that Xenon said about the two ancient demons' history is that the two of them used to be two members of separate royal families from ancient times of the Spade Kingdom that at some point loved each other as best friends, and then sooner or later it grew to hate each other, and their intense hatred turned them into demons, and then after they became demons they went on a rampage in the Spade Kingdom and were sealed away. And when I read that on Friday, I thought to myself, this can't be all the information that Tabata's given us about these two demons. If he's bothering to tell us even any history on these two, then there has to be more information here. There must be something that the translation is missing, so I'll wait till the Sunday translation comes out, the official one for Shonen Jump, to see exactly what information isn't there. And then we get the Sunday release, and it's the exact same information that was translated on Friday. So yeah, that little history lesson that we get from Xenon in this chapter about the demons left me feeling a little disappointed because we don't find out any useful information from him about them. Like, we don't find out what their names were, we don't find out they're part of the same royal family that Yuno comes from, or they're separate families. We don't find out exactly what caused the two of them to grow into hating each other so much that they would turn into demons. We don't even find out what the ritual that turned them into demons was like. Like seriously, he tells us so little information about the demon's history that it almost seems unnecessary to mention it in the first place. If he wanted to just torment Yuno about the fact that they brought all their most powerful mages from the Clover Kingdom to the Spade Kingdom and left it pretty much defenseless, that's all he needed to say that they had a demon going there that was very powerful and there was pretty much no one there to stop it. I mean, I guess finding out that Yuno's family was put in charge of guarding these demons this entire time was kind of cool information to find out, but at the same time, it's not going to amount to much because Yuno's not going to have any involvement when it comes down to taking down either one of these demons. So again, it's a little bit of added information that's not really necessary. And when speaking of the demons, we cut over to the demon that Mary Oleona is fighting, and we find out from her, and this is actually a very important information for later on in the chapter that I did not realize until I read the official one on Sunday, and that is that the demon is actually using the wings on its back to guide her mana from the air in order to make it stronger by the second. So she's going to have a much harder fight than I originally thought she would as the seconds go by while this demon's still there powering up. Which I gotta be honest, the more Tabata sets up this fight, the more excited I am about it. I really hope we do not skip over it again. I really want to see, I said it before and I'll say it again, if Mary Oleona is part of an arc, then skipping over her fights is just completely wasting her character. She needs to have an intense fight on screen, and I really hope we get to see this fight on screen. Also, I would like to point out that if Mary Oleona defeats this demon after the first gate being opened and they get a power up from that, then this 100% confirms that she is definitely stronger than Lumiere at this point. And even though Lumiere was a very powerful mage in himself, even he couldn't defeat a demon by himself. Now, you can make the arguments of whether or not the demon that he fought and the demon that Mary Oleona fought, which one was stronger. That argument can be made all day and all night, but what you can't argue is the fact that now that the first gate is open, this demon is definitely more powerful than the one that Lumiere fought. So if she does end up defeating this demon single-handedly, this would definitely cement the fact that Mary Oleona is 100% stronger at this point than Lumiere was. Now we do cut over to the demon in the Clover Kingdom, and I was a little confused at the end of the last chapter because I wasn't sure exactly where the demon landed. Because on one hand you can see people from the capital actually reacting to the demon and showing up, but at the same time, we saw Rekka and Nash at the end of the chapter, so I wasn't sure exactly how close it was to Hage Village versus how close it was to the capital. But we do see it in this chapter actually on its way, like on a mad dash to the capital. And the first named character we actually cut over to in the Clover Kingdom is actually Julius, who seemingly is preparing some kind of spell in order to fight off against the demon, but he says that he needs time to prepare it. So he actually calls on the shadowy figure who we don't get to find out who it is until later on in the chapter for their help. But we know it's someone who's actually not a magic knight because he mentions, hey, I'm sorry, even though you're not a magic knight, I do need your help in fighting off this demon or holding it back long enough for me to actually get onto the battlefield and be ready to fight it. Now, we don't actually get any dialogue from this person in that moment, and I'm not going to reveal just yet who it is. We'll go over that when they actually show up in the sequence of events for the chapter. But I do want to say that it's actually someone I completely forgot about and completely counted out when I was talking in the last video about who's actually left in the Clover Kingdom at captain level who could actually help out in defending the kingdom against this demon. And you know what, speaking of captain level people, I gotta say that Kaiser in this chapter actually really impressed me with his plan on how to stop or at least slow down the demon's movements. Because knowing that his strength alone was not going to be enough to stop this demon, he took his entire squad into his vortex magic with him, and they are basically just pouring their mana into him, basically powering him up so that he could create a giant vortex big enough to stop the demon in his tracks. And then while he's doing that, you got possibly my favorite part of the entire chapter, and that's when we get a whole page devoted to all the other squads, literally all the named characters that we met from all the other squads besides the Golden Dawn and the Black Bull, who are surprisingly absent from this fight. I can imagine why the Black Bulls are not there, because they're most likely on the way to the Spade Kingdom. But when it comes to the Golden Dawn, you would think they would still be in the capital, or at least in the kingdom, helping out in this fight. But they're not there at all. But we get to see all the other squads basically working together to evacuate the civilians and basically keep them safe, or as safe as they possibly can against this demon, while Kaiser is actually holding it back. But even Kaiser and his gang are not enough to basically keep the demon completely caught in his tracks, because it actually does manage to get one arm free. And it actually does manage to shoot a magical attack at one of the castles, heading straight towards King Kira, which, I'll be honest with you, I don't think anyone really cares that much about him, at least fan-wise. I doubt there's anybody who's saying, oh my god, he's in danger and worried about his life. I think pretty much all of us at this point would pretty much be happy if he died. Now, I don't remember if the king actually has any kids or any heirs set up to take the throne after he dies, but I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. If Julius is going to be taking on or keeping the role of Magic Emperor, I would be perfectly fine with Leona just taking the throne. I think that her being the next queen of the entire Clover Kingdom would be immensely fun and entertaining to see. Now, surprisingly enough, the three characters that actually show up to stop the attack that's going straight for the king are actually Kirsch, Nebra, and Solid, which Kirsch and Nebra, I don't know exactly what their attacks are meant to do. They basically just use Kirsch uses his flower petals to try to stop it. Alright, I can understand that. Nebra, seemingly, based on the name of her magic, uses some kind of illusion spell to try to stop it. Doesn't really do anything. His attack goes straight through both of their abilities. And then we actually have Solid being the MVP, who actually uses one of his attacks to deflect the magical beam that was heading straight for the king to a different portion of the castle, basically just hits one of the walls. And he actually laments the fact that even though after training for 6 months, he's only able to deflect an attack. And I gotta say, compared to what he was doing prior to that, that's actually a big improvement in strength. I mean, I don't like Solid at all, but he should really be celebrating the fact that after, what he used to be able to do, back during the Elf Invasion arc, he got his ass kicked very easily. Considering how strong he's gotten since then, he should be celebrating the fact that he actually got this. This is actually a win in his part. This is a feat for Solid. Now, even with all these people working together, it's still not enough to stop the demon completely, because he pretty much just uses his power to seemingly kill off the entirety of the purple orcas, including Kaiser. Now, I doubt they're actually dead, but when you look at that panel, they look pretty much dead in that scene. And then he also attacks Nebra, Solid, and Kirsch, but they actually end up walking away with just minor injuries. Well, not minor, but they walk away a lot better than Kaiser and his crew did. And Kirsch actually mentions that he thinks that the demon is too powerful for them to really do anything against, but I think he actually might be overestimating how strong the demon actually is. Because when you really think about it, no one's actually tried to attack or fight the demon just yet. We've only had the purple orcas use Kaiser's vortex magic to basically block its movements, and Nebra, Solid, and Kirsch have only used their magic to block its attacks from attacking the king once. The rest of the squads that are there have not tried to fight off against it just yet, so maybe if all the squads that are there put together their magic and attacked the demon all at once, I actually think they will stand a great chance of defeating the demon. Now, there will be casualties, but I still think that at the end of the day, they would manage to defeat the demon. Now, just as everything's looking bad, this is when we get to reveal who that person Julius was talking to earlier in the chapter was, and it turns out to be Damianato, who was using his scale magic to basically regulate the magic from the demon. But even he says that the demon is too powerful for his scale magic to really do anything against. He can't lower it too much, but he doesn't need to. Because right when the demon actually goes to attack him, realizing that he's actually the one decreasing his mana, that's when Julius shows up in his adult form, ready to fight off against the demon one-on-one. And I actually really like the monologue that Damianato actually has in this chapter when he's talking about the demon and Julius having a fight. And he says that the only way to fight phenomenal magic is to strike back with magic that's equally phenomenal. Now, the reason why Julius ended up showing up in this form is because the last page of his grimoire actually gives him a spell that allows him to age his body up about 10 years and increases magical power about the same amount. So he's only about, I would say, 24 or 23 years old at this point, but he's so far up in the sky that the people who actually notice that he's there, basically the civilians who actually are cheering by the fact that the Magic Emperor is there to protect them, can't really tell the difference between him being, what he was, I would say, about 40-something, prior to fighting Patry, and basically looking 24 now. But he's there to fight off against the demon, and he's actually doing a good job for about one page. And this is actually where my most disappointing aspect of the chapter is that we only get to see the fight between Julius and the demon for about a page, maybe a page and a half, and then that's it. And the reason the spell doesn't last as long as Julius thought it would, even with Damiano boosting his mana, is because of the fact, and this is going back all the way to the beginning of the chapter, just how Leona mentioned the demon that she's fighting is basically gathering mana through the air with his wings. we end up seeing that the demon in this chapter is actually doing the same thing. Because when we first see the demon heading toward the capital in the chapter, it doesn't have any wings. But the page literally right after Julius gets turned back into his 13-year-old form, which by the way, all the civilians who are watching him fight against the demon see him transform back into his original form. So now the cat's out of the bag when it comes to his secret. But once he ends up turning back, on the very next page, we actually get to see a shot of the demon with 2 giant black wings on its back. And it's actually kind of hard to see them at first because they actually look more like mist than they actually do wings. But there are 2 big black wing-like silhouettes circling around in the back behind him that signify the fact that he actually is using his ability or using those wings to gather mana from the air, and more than likely this is the reason why Julius' spell didn't last as long as it did. And then we get to the point of the chapter where everyone I'm sure is the most hyped to talk about, and that is once Julius gets turned back into a kid and the demon goes to attack him and Damiano, out of nowhere comes Asta flying through the air with his Black Divider active to attack the demon. He basically pierces the attack, and then the last final shot of the chapter is of him and Lieb announcing that they're going to activate their Devil Union mode. Now, we don't get to see the Union mode in this chapter, and I'm sure we're not going to get to see it in the next chapter. I predict that Tabata's going to be holding off the reveal to what the mode actually looks like until we actually get to see Asta in the Spade Kingdom fighting off against Dante or one of the demons. And I'm pretty sure Asta's going to end up being the last person to actually show up that's going to be going to the Spade Kingdom. So I'm assuming that, we'll get Noelle and the people from the Heart Kingdom first, possibly the Black Bull members, and then finally Asta showing up to basically be the savior at the end of the day. So yeah, we still have kind of a long wait until we actually get to see the transformation, but it is still hype as hell to see Asta finally show back up, because I think it's been about 8 chapters now since we actually really got to see him. I mean, we saw a little bit of him in the last chapter, but this is the first time in 8 chapters that we actually got to see him in full view. And what's even more hype about this is the fact that all the people, all the civilians, the nobles, everyone who's in the capital, who was watching Julius fight off against the demon before he got turned into a 13-year-old, now see Asta coming in, the person that they were actually judging because he had demonic powers. They see him showing up in his demonic form, going to take out the demon that was rampaging through the capital. And what's even better is that Asta is now saving Damiano's life, so even he cannot argue against Asta's intentions about protecting civilians of the Clover Kingdom. So after the Spade Kingdom arc is over, Asta's banishment from the Clover Kingdom should definitely be lifted, and even Damiano should not be able to say anything against him. But anyway guys, that's all that happened in this week's chapter. Now I am actually kind of wondering after reading this, and this is actually going past the Spade Kingdom arc, but I'm wondering that what's going to end up happening with Julius now that his secret's been revealed? Now that everyone knows that he's not actually the same adult that he was before, that he's basically back in the body of a 13-year-old, does this mean that he's actually going to have to finally give up the position as a magical emperor? Or is he going to still be able to keep it? I don't know, I'm interested in finding out. I have my own list of characters who I think should end up replacing him if he does end up having to give up the position. But personally, I think he might as well just end up keeping it. I mean, he's kept it this long, and Tabata didn't bother to replace him in the last arc, so I don't see the reason to do it now. But anyway guys, that's it for the chapter, that's it for the review. I cannot wait to actually get to see more of Asta when he shows back up in the chapters. I'm sure we're going to have to wait like another 10 or so chapters until we actually get him back. I actually think that we might end up seeing the Dark Mode or the Devil Union Mode and Asta showing back up possibly in chapter 300. We are close to that, so it would actually be a nice wait. We're only at 281 right now. So 19 more chapters. I can wait 19 more chapters to get a big reveal in chapter 300. So, Tabata, just hold him off until then. But that's it for the video. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Comment down below your thoughts and theories, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.